I have a lot of fondness in my heart for Blackmagic Design. I love a lot of the products they've released over the years. And most recently, their biggest, most expensive Ursa Cine, the 17K monster, got added to the Netflix approved camera list. And so we're going to talk about it and so much more. But before we get started, like this video, hit the subscribe button and consider joining the channel. Channel members get exclusive access to Filmmaker Alchemy, behind the scenes lessons and insights on the business of video production. Learn how to turn your content into gold. If you go over to Netflix's website where they show all their approved cameras, you'll see that Blackmagic Design Ursa Cine 17K 65 has been added to the list. And that's kind of cool, but let's also talk about the price point on this thing, because this is not your entry-level hybrid. This is not the camera you're going to take family photos with. This is $32,000 body only. So this is quite an expensive cinema beast, in line with something like a Sony Burano or that equivalent price point in the market. Certainly not the most expensive, still affordable for a cinema camera if you compare it to the highest of the high end. But if we're talking about hybrids, entry-level video production, content creation, you're shooting weddings, you're shooting documentaries, I don't know what you're doing, this may not be the camera for you. And I think this really got me thinking. Everyone talks about, on YouTube in particular, everyone talks about run and gun filmmaking. Oh, if you're a run and gun shooter, if you're a run and gun content creator, if you're running and gunning, making documentary, you're running and gunning. Everyone's running and gunning with their hybrid cameras these days. I just think that's the new norm. That's what we're all doing. That is content creation, is running and gunning. So what do you call this? This is, I asked ChatGPT for some help. Like, what is this? Plot and shot was one thing it suggested. Crawl and haul, maybe another one. I don't know. You come up with some clever little opposite to run and gun and tell me, is it plot and shot? Is it crawl and haul? I don't know, because it's certainly slower to set up these types of productions. But what's also interesting about that is why I think so many of us relate to running and gunning is because even if you're on some big shoot like this, you might have time to set it all up, but you're still always rushing and racing for whatever reason. It's always like clock's ticking, we got to go. And is there a difference between setting up, if you have a crew and setting up 10 lights in a hurry versus if you're all by yourself and you have to set up one light in a hurry? I think everyone is running and gunning. So why there is no good name for what it is, even like Hollywood, even the biggest, most expensive projects are still like, clock's ticking, guys, let's go. We got to speed it up, chop, chop. Everyone is kind of running and gunning, even at the biggest scales, I think. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. Is that true, or is it actually slow? I mean, the other joke in the industry is hurry up and wait, and that's definitely a thing. But you're hurrying it up and waiting. You're hurrying, right? Is let's go, and then you're waiting, and then okay, let's go. Come on, real quick. It just seems to be the case everywhere you go. It's always everyone's in a hurry. Everyone's running and gunning. But if you check out the Ursa Cine, not the Ursa Mini, that's different. You see, Ursa used to be the big boy, the Ursa, and then they came out the Ursa Mini, and everyone seemed to like that design a whole lot better. The original Ursa, people always joked it should have been called like the Ursa Major, for the constellations. Anyway, regardless, that's off topic. The Ursa, the original, had that huge screen. Do you remember the big flip out on the side? And people were like, that's nice, but kind of overkill. I only think I ever saw one in the wild, and it was one year at NAB years ago. Someone was shooting with the original Ursa. But the Ursa Mini, everyone was much more in love with that design, a little bit easier to put on a drone. If you have a big drone or any kind of gimbal, you can do that. And now they've got the Ursa Cine, which is similar to the Mini, but obviously more cinema style. And it seems like Blackmagic has separated, like, okay, instead of the Ursa Mini, we've got the Ursa Cine, and that's got the things you want, like the built-in NDs and a lot of the functionality. And then the Pixis is more of that, like entry-level, easier to accept the price point on those. And the pricing is interesting too, because Blackmagic took this different approach. They started really small, entry level. Like I think their first camera, was it the Pocket Cinema camera, or was it just the Blackmagic Cinema camera? The Blackmagic Cinema camera was the first, like 2.5K, if I'm remembering correctly. It had some neat, but it was very bizarrely designed, just a big screen on the back. Anyway, they've evolved their design over the years, and then now they've gotten to the point where they can actually charge $32,000 for a camera. Meanwhile, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, Blackmagic was the affordable entry point. And I don't know if that's because Red has kind of been absorbed into Nikon, and no one really knows where that's going. Arri obviously has their place. Sony has their whole lineup from, small, mid-tier to high-end. They've got it more or less covered. Blackmagic is seemingly kind of doing the same thing, but they're still missing some of those good entry points. I think some of their, pocket cameras haven't really... They're good for what they do and for the people who want them, but they're not that actual hybrid style that I would prefer, and I think some of us would actually prefer. I've never felt comfortable taking a picture with a Blackmagic camera. They're just not the right shape and layout and autofocus and all that kind of stuff. But if you're into cinema, certainly a good option. Obviously, they're going all in on this kind of a large format sensor, and that's... I don't know why we call these things what we do. It's like bigger than full frame. I think some of these where it's like kind of medium format, but even that is a misnomer. It's not large format, certainly in the traditional sense. But that I think is just a full frame sensor. I don't know. It's very confusing how big we're actually talking. Here they have large format flexibility. Like what are we talking about? Is this medium format? Is this full frame? I need a little bit more specificity and some shared language across all these brands, because it does get a little confusing. I think from this sensor design, that's just full frame. I think, maybe not. Let's see, let's read. Maybe that's a little bit better instead of just looking at a picture and guessing. So here we've got, let's go back up. So the 65, that's the big one we were looking at in large format. Like what? Is that just full frame? I think that's what that means. A revolutionary digital film camera with a large format 36 by 24 sensor up to 12K resolution, 16 stops of dynamic range, right? And then we have the extremely large format digital film camera. Guys, you gotta be specific, be precise. What are we talking? Extremely large format with 65 millimeter 51 by 24. Now that is actually a bigger sensor, but the vertical is still the same. So still 24 on the vertical, but much wider. That'll give you 17K resolution and 16 stops. You can shoot 17K for giant IMAX style screens. But again, we're talking this way, not this way, which is the interesting conflict in the industry right now. Movies, everyone thinks horizontal. I agree. Your eyes are horizontal. They're on a horizontal plane. They're spaced this way. You don't have eyes this way. You're not top and bottom. We're not stacking vertical, but so many people are watching and consuming and shooting on their phones that it becomes this trade-off. Are we going tall? Are we going wide? Which direction do we go? You know, my philosophy is shoot as square as possible, shoot open gate, and then you get horizontal and vertical. But if the sensor itself is extra wide for IMAX purposes, which let's be real, if you're spending $32,000 on a camera, I don't think you're making TikToks, but hey, they're going to be made into TikToks for all the marketing. So people come see your movie. So at a certain point, you do need both. You do need horizontal and vertical. And I'll move on from there. What is this? The immersive. They got this big behemoth coming at some point. I don't think this one's available. Maybe it is somewhere, but this 3D spatial video kind of monstrosity will come at some point. They say pre-order now, optimized for the Apple Vision Pro. Kind of neat if things end up heading that direction. I talked about that a year or two ago now. The demands for spatial content just aren't there, but the technology for delivering good quality spatial video is getting close. And I think it's just about standardizing, and then maybe it'll be a little bit more consumable. But anyway, we got this ultra wide, extremely large format sensor, however you want to call it. So that's what we got here. The 12K is cropped, and then you see all the way to the side, extra wide. And you can read through it if you're really curious to see what they're doing over at Blackmagic. But this is available. You can go buy it over on B&H. It says it's in stock, but you can't return it. So if you're going to buy the $32,000 camera, just know all sales are final. And really, does it matter if it's on this Netflix list? I don't know. That was the claim to fame for Lumix and the S1H, that it actually got approved. But DJI is over here on this list. And I think, let's be real, if you have parts of your projects that are shot on a phone, on a GoPro, on a whatever, if it's good content, I think Netflix is still going to take it. I think they've got stuff over on Netflix that wasn't all shot with just these cameras. For Panasonic, we've got the VariCam, the VariCam LT, the VariCam Pure. What a pure name. The EVA1, the S1H, like I mentioned, the BGH1, that boxy little boy, and the BS1H, another box, and then the AK gosh, Panasonic's making AKs? No, they're making the AKUC 4000. Let me know if you're shooting on that. I would be curious. Red, of course, is on the list. What else do we got here? We can go all the way. Oh, look at all the red variants. Yes, plenty of red. This is actually, honestly, now that I'm thinking about this, if you want to track down all the different red SKUs over the years, because they, God knows, they had so many names and variants, and is it X or XL? Is it the Epic M or the MX? Like, it got to be kind of a nightmare tracking all of them. This is such a great spot just to see every red camera. I mean, more or less, because I think they're all on this list. Netflix probably approved almost all of them, I would imagine. But look at this. This is so great. You can see every red camera right in a snapshot. So if there's some old red camera you want to go pick up on eBay, and you want to dive into which one's the best, look at this. I don't know anywhere else that would do this. Kind of cool that Netflix has this put together. Let's see. Let's read through here real quick. Red, the Weapon Monstro 8K VV, right? VistaVision. Okay, but then there's also the Red Weapon Dragon 8K VV VistaVision. What in the world is the difference between Red DSMC2, so the digital stills and motion camera 2 variant, but then the weapon variant, DSMC2, we've got Weapon Helium 8K Super 35, okay. The Epic W, different than the weapon, but also Helium, that's 8K Super 35. The way they did this with Red, the body's getting names, the sensors getting names, oof. Like, I'm 4 cameras deep into this list, and I'm already scratching my head. Just wondering, like, what in the world is this? Which maybe is a little bit how they lost the plot there. But hey, I don't know. Nikon, we'll see what Nikon does with them. Let's see what else we got on this list. The Red Weapon Dragon 6K. Okay, the Red Epic Dragon 6K. Again, the weapon is the body style. The dragon is the sensor, if I'm getting that right. But then there's also the Red DSMC2, the Epic W, the Gemini 5K Super 35, the Scarlet W Dragon 5K Super 35. You see what I mean? I've talked about this before, and this perfectly encapsulates what I'm talking about with these red cameras. They're like, this is such a good resource that Netflix has over here, because I don't know how you would discern this when we're in hindsight. At the time when it's coming out and the marketing's on full blast, yes, it's easy to remember, but like, this is a far cry from anything that's like the GH1, the GH2, the GH3, the GH4, the GH5, the GH5S, the GH5 Mark II, the GH6, the GH7. Kind of easy to track. Same thing for Sony. Oh, it's the A7. Now it's the A7 II, the A7 III. Oh, there's the A7S Mark III. Oh, there's the A7R Mark IV. You know, whatever it is. Like, it kind of follows. Once you understand one, you see how they all add up more or less, but not with these. Red Ranger Monstro 8K VistaVision, Red Ranger Helium 8K Super 35, Red Ranger Gemini 5K, the Dragon X 6K 35, the Komodo 6K, the V-Raptor 8K VistaVision, the V-Raptor XL 8K VistaVision. Those are different cameras? I guess so. The V-Raptor XL, and I'm looking at them like, okay, so the XL has more ports and plugs. I guess that's the difference. V-Raptor 8K Super 35, V-Raptor XL 8K Super 35, Komodo X 6K Super 35. But then up here, they had the Komodo. They probably just need to reorganize this list, honestly. Maybe it's when it got added. The last one is whatever was added most recently. Raptor XL X 8K. What? That's not real. That's fake. The Red V-Raptor XL X 8K VistaVision. I refuse to believe that that's the real camera. Panavision is on this list. Blackmagic, who we already talked about. Sony. Let's wrap it up here with the Sony cameras. The Venice. The Venice. Everyone loves the Venice and the Venice 2 6K. All right. The Venice 2 8K. All right. A little bit clear there. The Burano. Anyone out there shooting with the Burano? Do you like the Burano? Let me know. It's kind of got everything in one. They charge you for it, and you can buy it if you want. Burano, very nice. The FX9, the F55. So there are some older cameras still on this list. So that's another thing people like to do is dig up something old to still maintain some professional standard. Yes, there's some limitations with older tech. Maybe it's harder to find media or accessories or something like that, but you can find an F65 out there. There's still people shooting with them, I'm sure, having a great time. The FS7, the FS7 II, the F5, the FX6, the FR7. What in the, what? Do you have an FR7? I don't know anyone that's got an FR7. That's like for concerts, live event sort of thing. The Sony, the Z450, the Z750, the FX3. Everyone loves the FX3. And the Sony F5500. These are all the Netflix cameras. You can go look at them further if you want to see what's approved. And I think there's some quality on Netflix where it's, it's got to be a certain percentage of the film or the content was shot with this approved camera. But you can trickle in other things, iPhone shots, etc., as long as it's not too much of it. So I'm curious, things like the new movie 28 years later, shot on an iPhone. I don't see Apple on here. Is Apple on here? Is that even if Netflix would take it, I'm sure. Come on, they're not going to say you can't put your movie on our platform, but there's no Apple, there's Airy, and that's it. There's no Apple, no iPhone, not on here. So what are you going to do 28 years later? Or there've been some other things, I guess, was it Presence? Steven Soderbergh, that was like the Sony was it the A9, 2 or 3, one of those, something like that? Like, I don't know. Can that not be on Netflix because it was shot with that camera? I don't think it was shot with the FX3, like the creator. That was the big news around that movie, the hype and the marketing. Shot on the FX3. I think for Presence, they shot on something on A9. I think it was that one of those cameras. Let me know. I'm probably wrong. Leave a comment. Call me out. But, not on the list. So I don't know how strict they are over at Netflix when these Hollywood movies come out and the whole selling point or a big chunk of the marketing is, hey, this was shot on an iPhone, or hey, this was shot on this tiny little camera to get these cool visuals you've never seen before. I lied. We're going to look at the Airy list too. The Alexa LF, the Alexa Mini LF, the Alexa 65, and the Alexa 35, the Alexa 265. And that's it. Such a nice, clean, simple list. Clear as day. Look, these are the cameras. You want to shoot Airy? The Alexa? There you go. That's what your choices are. That is a far cry from the clear as mud red list. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Why? I'm sure there was a reason why they did what they did. And I'm being a little harsh and being overly critical. I think these all look cool. I'm sure they make great footage. But it's a little bit Cheesecake Factory, a little bit too big of a menu. Like, I don't even know what to pick off this list. Which one is the good one? I mean, they're all good, but which one would you recommend? Which one should you pick up? The one the Ranger. I love the idea. No Raven on. Oh, there's the Raven. The Raven and the Ranger. I just like those names. I don't know, the RR, something about it just resonates with me. So not the Raven. I think the Ranger. If those are out there in the wild, I think I'd love to get my hands on one of those one day because I just think it's so cool. The form factor, the name, the Red Ranger. Come on, Power Rangers. The Red Ranger's the leader. Everyone knows this. So Red Ranger, good name. I think that's the one I'd pick just based on name alone. And I wouldn't even look at anything else on this list because it's all trash. No, I'm just joking, of course. But we were talking about Blackmagic. Now we're talking about Red Rangers. I should wrap it up.